Okay, Bruce, it's great to see you. Can you hear, Bruce? It's recording.
Yes, it gave me a notification that it was recording, and am I okay with that?
Yeah, that's right, because you want you to be safe. We don't want anything, upsetting anybody here, and feeling as if they're being put upon. But anyway, this has been, I think, almost probably more than a year or whatever since we last did the How Does This Make Sense? Because we've been surrounded by so many things that I guess make so much sense for us. But anyway, we just kind of figured let's talk about Jeremy's razors. Over the past 2 weeks, I don't know about you, but I've been getting inundated on Facebook with this guy's commercials and whatnot. And earlier, I had posted his 4-minute video for anyone that's interested in looking at it. So who aren't familiar with it can put this in context. But just to help, what I want to do is just read something on Jeremy's Razor's website, something he wrote. Clearly, he was a CEO of the Daily Wire, and he's got a real beef to pick with Harry's. And there's just such a plethora of these different razor companies right now, and also to an extent Gillette. So here it was. Harry's and the Daily Wire had a deal. They paid us. We advertised their razors. We did this for years with a clear understanding that Harry's can leave at any time for any reason. But after we said that boys are boys and girls are girls, it was too much for them. They left us. They betrayed us. At the behest of a 2-follower Twitter account, Harry's publicly condemned our show, attacking not just me, the CEO and God King, but all of you. They said the views you hear on our programs, whether you agree with them or not, are inexcusable, and dropped their ads on our network due to misaligned values. They tried to shame you for the unforgivable sin of not adhering to their woke platitudes du jour. Enough. Harry's and their ilk don't want you in their world, but I want you in mine. So stop giving your money to corporations that hate you. Give it to me instead. So since I'm too chicken to give my first take on this, I'll throw it to you, man.
Okay, thanks, Ed.
Yeah.
God, there's a lot to unpack. I mean, really, he's like, they can leave at any time for no reason, but if they have a reason I disagree with, they're assholes.
That's the first thing I thought of. Why wouldn't you edit that out? But go ahead.
It's like, okay, and by the way, can I be more arrogant? And by the way, I want your money, because that's what this is about, money. So it's this culture of punishing those you disagree with. Mm-hmm. It really, I've got a platform, Daily Wire. I don't know, do you check into the Daily Wire at all, Ed?
No, I mean, what I'll get is notifications on Facebook, but it's another service that you have to subscribe to. And I think I already pay way too much for Netflix. So I'm not going to subscribe to anything else. I can get what I need to know from my sources.
Stop, please. So, great. No, I was just struck. Here's a guy with a beard selling shaving products, seeing who can be the bigger, the guy with the bigger member ship. I mean, it's so juvenile and so enjoyable at the same time.
Yes.
I can't. Now, and by the way, I think he knows his target really well.
That's what I was wanting to get to. How, from a marketing perspective, what do you think?
From a purely marketing perspective, he's got a niche. He knows that niche, and he knows how to appeal to them. This kind of 1970s and 80s masculinity and 90s, master of the universe comes back. It's not Wall Street. It's these media guys and these tech guys. They're the masters of the universe now, and their arrogance knows no bounds. And I'm loving it from a voyeuristic standpoint. From a societal standpoint, it's like, okay, if you disagree with me, I'm going to punish you. So I don't think it's very healthy from an emotional or psychological point of view for anybody but him.
Yeah.
But it works. I mean, I think he really does know his audience. I love the fact that you can sign up for a subscription and in 6 months we'll start shipping. You got to love that too. he's
It's all development.
yeah, in development. Listen, if I get enough orders, I'll actually make this thing.
Yeah, well, it's like the typical sort of almost like a dry test, as we used to call it in the direct response world, right? Yeah, no, it's really really interesting. He certainly has hit a niche, and the whole notion of, if I don't disagree with you, I'm going to cancel you, or I'm going to fight you, or whatever. I mean, this has just been going on and on and on. It's like a ping pong match with everybody else in the middle on this. What is interesting is, there are those out there that sort of take these societal positions and do a much better job at it than others. So yes, I think he knows his audience, or he knows how to really tap into a certain nerve that is out there. Because one thing that is pretty clear that you see time and time again has been pretty much the marginalization of men, and attempts in many ways to kind of redefine what that is. I've seen in the workshops that I've done over the years that men that are involved are getting quieter and quieter and quieter. I mean, that's just an anecdotal story, but it's something to take notice and kind of worry about. Or someone like that looks at it and says, I see what's really seething underneath all this, and what can happen. In his commercial, he also takes big issue with Gillette. And I got to tell you, from that perspective, I can't speak to what got down between the Daily Wire thing, but from the perspective of what Gillette did, I agree with him. Because back in 2019, Gillette did what I thought was the stupidest thing on earth, not knowing your audience, putting out 90-second commercials about toxic masculinity. And it backfired in a big way. And it showed all sorts of visuals of guys at grills and this and that, and then trying to show the guys that were kind of more enlightened in their view. And then just on YouTube alone, at the time when they were showing negative comments as well, or negative votes, the dislikes were overwhelmingly larger than the likes. And not only men were taking shots at this, lots of women could not stand it at all. And then they never admitted a real problem. The CEO said, well, we didn't lose any business. We maintained our market share during this time as opposed to growing. And there were also reasons for that. They were discounting an awful lot there. But not too long, they never kind of apologized for it, but not too long after it, they went back to touting their razors for firemen and people like that.
Yeah, he uses the word toxic masculinity or masculinity a number of times. He uses woke, all the women are very sexy. He's the kind of nebbishy guy. He almost runs over at the beginning of his commercial. It is, to me, what's old is new again, or what's new, however you want to put it. It's just struck me as, we could be talking to an investment banker of the 1980s, the Wall Street masters of the universe. Or, now there's this guy, but I believe he knows his audience.
Well, does that also mean that a lot of the marketers out there don't know their audience?
Well, he knows his niche. He knows, and he's pushing back the way they want him to push back.
Right.
I don't want to have to not use the word girl. I don't want to have to use they or them instead of him or her. I want to be able to eat meat. There's, he acts all nichey, but the way he positions it is broader.
Yeah.
So I found it eminently amusing. I thought it was juvenile as hell and loved it for it. Loved them.
Caricatures. Everybody that takes it almost overly serious, you have to sort of keep yourself in check. Those women are not real at any stretch. I don't know any woman like that. I don't know any guy like that. But it's funny.
Yes. I mean, you would, when the shaving moved into these niche type things, it was all the metrosexuals with the creams and the, the $150 razor sets and all this stuff. It's now, and he looks that part, which is the part that cracked me up. But he's certainly not acting that part. He's acting.
Now, the question becomes whether you think this is something sustainable over time. I mean, a lot of me says, hey, this is a very interesting sort of gimmick way in. The market is pretty saturated with these different razor offerings and so forth. So I'd be curious to see if this is something you could truly sustain over time,
Well, I don't know. He's basically saying if you're a woman, buy Gillette. If you're a man, buy Jeremy. If you want to act like, if you're worried about what women think of you, go ahead, buy Harry's. If you're confident in yourself, buy Jeremy.
Yeah.
Well, is it sustainable? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. It's hard to even tell at this point because who knows what the results are. But just to kind of focus on one particular related area, and then we'll sort of close it off. It's a very delicate area for everybody to get into in terms of what's truly sustainable or not. If you're going to go into sort of taking these social positions on things, which to me, I still don't understand why a lot of companies do it with the risk of pissing off half of their audience. But there's two coffee companies that are politically diametrically opposed to each other, but I think are both incredibly brilliant, run by two different men who probably have a lot more in common than they realize. One is Black Rifle Coffee, which is very conservative. It does an awful lot for veterans groups and whatnot. Another one is called Red Bay Coffee out of San Francisco, Oakland, actually, which does a lot for people who have been imprisoned, especially women imprisoned. And they actually have the same exact marketing model, which is tying into sort of the social beliefs of the people that they're appealing to. And hiring content providers and journalists, and really supporting their various causes. So it's almost like the same exact playbook, but with their different political bent. I don't know what the business results are for Red Bay. I do think it's probably pretty darn good. Certainly the ones for Black Rifle has been growing exponentially. They're even on grocery shelves at this point. And, I would say if both of those guys are in the same room, they may not agree on anything politically, but they probably would find a lot of kindred in terms of their love for coffee, both of their hatred for Starbucks, by the way, and their ability to really figure out a way to grow their franchise pretty strongly with the people who do definitely share their values,
Well, it's people like to do business with people like themselves. People want to do business with people that share their values.
Yeah.
So big companies find themselves in this polarized world in a very difficult position because they have their customers that want them to take a position. But just as importantly, they've got 20 or 40 or 100,000 employees that want them to take a position too.
That's mainly it. It's in many ways, it's the employees.
So these are, if I'm a CEO, I think you've got to allow these people flexibility on their own time and even potentially support on their own time. But I don't know how it benefits the corporation, as you pointed out, to take a position that in 5 years or 10 years may prove to be very wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, I can make it personal for me. When the Black Power movement invaded the Olympics, as far as I was concerned,
yeah,
and they raised their fists in the air instead of putting their hand on their heart or standing at attention during the playing of the national anthem. As a child, I was angry and hurt, and I hated them for it. But time and maturity taught me that, what? that was a wrong that needed to be righted, and they needed to draw attention to their cause. And while I'm not a huge fan of attention drawing for causes in what I consider non-political environments, sport being a prime among them, I recognize that those are the people that it most affects, and that's their platform. And I give them a pass now. And I think that's the right thing to do,
Well,
because
I
I
think-
the wrong child.
Well, it's interesting because as you were saying it, I think especially as human beings, as citizens, and certainly as marketers, what's incumbent upon us all is to try to find what's the hidden truth in the thing that outrages you at that moment. So you talked about some things that were outraging you then, but then over time you found what that truth is. How many times still something is going to happen out there that just outrages you and could be very much outrageous by and large. But underneath it all is some kind of hidden truth that tends to evade everybody. And if you're going to really do your job as not only a human being, but as a marketer, the key is to always try to find what those hidden truths are underneath. So
Right.
anyway, with that, I don't know, does that make sense?
I don't know, but it was sure a lot of talking about it. So
Okay, thanks.
we'll let another judge.
All right, man. Until next time.
You got it, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.